Students are saying, sir, in the slide, one statement is there which is missing. From one time period to another time period, I keep on changing the slides. Don't worry. If you check the slides from last year compared to today's slides that I keep on giving you, there will be a lot of differences. Please don't worry. Now, right, generally 697 commodities. 697 commodities, that is goods, of course, goods. If you ask me, sir, why is there is no service in case of WPI, right? Please think logically. WPI was right basically made back in 1940s. The concept of a WPI was made back in 1940s, right? Don't you think at that point of time, majorly in the wholesale market, goods were traded, right? I hope you understand the logic behind it. Back in 1940s, it's very old. WPI is very old. Although we have kept on changing the commodities, the concept of WPI is very old in India. The idea of a WPI was introduced back in 1940s in India. Don't you think in 1940s, major trading was basically involving goods? That is the reason the idea of goods is only there in case of WPI. But don't you think, considering today, think of it now. Consider today, when services sector contribute around 50 plus percentage to the GDP number, you should include services also under WPI. Let me know, right? Don't you think today, right, where services sector contributes to more than 50%, to GDP, don't you think even services should be included in the WPI? Answer is yes, by the way. None of you are answering, but I'll answer it. Answer is yes, by the way. You should include even services. Why? Right? Because more than 50% comes right in the basically in the GDP number. How can services be supplied in wholesale? Company to company. Company to company. Right? Can you give me an example where one company will supply services to another company? Think of it. Right, company to company, is there no supply of services? You cannot think of any services which are supplied from one company to another company. What about transportation services? Think of it. What about transportation services? Right, so argument is simple. There will be services which are provided from one company to another company. That's the reason, right? I'll come back to this table, don't worry. There is a committee which was set up by the government, right? The name of the committee is Ramesh Chand Committee. We are yet to implement the recommendation. What this committee says, you should include services along with the goods in the calculation of WPI. Please let me know. Does it make sense now? We should include services also in the basket along with the goods in the calculation of WPI. Okay, we are yet to implement it. If government will make the changes, please be very careful, update the information. Now, whenever you talk about 697 commodities, right, 697 goods, these 697 goods are divided into three more groups. The 697 are divided into three groups. One group is called as the primary articles. Second one is fuel and power. Third one is manufactured items. Now, this is my recommendation to you people. By heart this table. Please by heart this table. Don't make a mistake of leaving it. Please by heart this table. It is much more easier compared to anything else you will read in case of WP and CPI. For example, as expected, many of the students are asking, what is there in 697? What is there in primary article? As if they want to by heart this table of 697. Let me show it to you. Those students who are worried about what is there, right, etc., etc., let me give you a heart attack. Just a joke, by the way. Right? Don't say, sir, how can you tell me that you will give me a heart attack? Right? Let me show it to you. Please have a look at this table and tell me, do you think UPSC is expecting you to by heart this table? Let me know. Do you think UPSC, right, is expecting you to by heart this table? If your answer is yes, by the way, congrats. By heart 697 articles from WPI, and under CPI, there are three more components, right? Just to make the matters much more easier, there are three more components. One basket will have 448, another basket will have 460, and the third basket will have 299. So now imagine, just imagine, right? I think the numbers will keep on rotating, right? Like in cartoon, right? They'll keep on rotating around your head now. One basket 697, right? One more basket 448, third basket 460, and the fourth basket 299. And imagine by the time you start, right, or you arrive at the next year, imagine government of India will accept the recommendation of Ramesh Chand committee, right? Imagine government will accept the recommendations of Ramesh Chand committee. Ramesh Chand committee says you should include more than 1100 commodities in the basket. Now imagine the complexity. You should you should include more than 1190 plus commodities in the basket, right? So if your argument is, sir, they can ask question anywhere, my dear, even if they ask, don't waste your time. Is it feasible? Answer to my question now. Let them ask the question. My question to you people is it good for you to buy hard 700 under WPI, 300 under CPI? Does it make any sense to you? Does it make any sense? Right? Some of the students will say, yes, he might ask. Let him ask. You don't worry, let him ask. To make the question very difficult, impossible to answer, they will create a question like this. But my question to you people, just to answer that one question, will you buy at 697 here, 299 here? Is it over? Absolutely no. Is it over? Absolutely no. 697 are divided into three groups. Now, can you buy out whatever products are there in manufacturing products? And as I'm showing the table to you, there are two students continuously they are asking examples of manufactured products. My dear, can't you see the table? Let me know. Can't you see what is there in the table? Right? Can't you see the examples of manufactured products? It is there right in front of you. Right? Nothing new. It is there right in front of you. Right? Examples of primary articles, examples of fuel, etc. So again, my recommendation to you people, do not waste your time here. Glance once, go forward. But what would be my recommendation is, do not make a mistake of leaving this table. UPC can ask you a question on this. Suddenly, two tables are there. I'll tell you what to remember. By heart this complete table. By heart this complete table. So manufactured items have highest number of goods and the highest weightage. I'll come to the concept of weightage also. Give me a minute. Fuel and power have the lowest number of items, goods, and the lowest weightage. Primary articles, right, consist of around 117 articles and has the middle weightage. Now you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by weightage? What is the importance of weightage? Let me ask you a very simple question. The prices of milk will go up, right? Point number one, the prices of milk will go up and the prices of, right, let's say another product such as clothes will go up. Understand my statement? Price of the milk goes up in the market. Prices of the clothing also will go up in the market. My question to you people, think carefully and answer. Which of the two products do you think will have a higher impact on common man? Simple question, by the way. Which of the two products do you think will have a higher impact on the common man? Right? Some of you are saying both. My dear, not both. It is milk. Not both. Some of you are very, very right diplomatic right now. Not both. It will be milk. Why? Is it okay if I say on cloth, a common man can spend money once in 3 months, once in 6 months, and some people once in 2 years? But on the other side, please tell me, can I say milk is a essential product for all of us? Don't we spend money on milk on day-to-day basis? Every day we'll keep on spending money on milk. Yes or no? Does it make sense to you? And that is the reason, right? Some of you are saying no here. I don't know how you purchase milk. Please do let me know. Those people, right? Those people who are saying no, how often do you purchase milk, my dear? Once a week? Once a month? Or once in a year? Right? Of course, yes. Right? The argument is it's an essential day-to-day product. You'll have to spend money every day. Otherwise, even now, if you don't understand, tell me why milk prices become a very important political debate during elections. Let me know. Why onion prices, in fact, many of the election cycles, onion prices have led to downfall of an existing government. I can tell you an example, by the way, but that is political. Don't write all of that examples in exam. Right? For example, Delhi government. Earlier, there was a chief minister by the name of Sheila Dikshit. One of the reason was right, onion prices. So I hope you understand. These are day-to-day consumption items. Day-to-day consumption items. And because these are day-to-day consumption items, even a small variation in the milk prices will have a higher impact on consumption pattern of a household. Now, simple question to you people, when you're tracking the prices of these commodities, should you provide equal weightage or equal importance to both of them? Don't you think it makes more sense to provide more weightage for milk compared to clothes? That is the concept of weightage. That is the idea of weightage, right? And weightages are decided by the committees. You don't decide them, right? Let's say you become IS officer, you're a very good economist, right? You're a bureaucrat now. Maybe in the future you might become a part of this committee. Don't worry, right? The government setup committee will decide what should be the weightage for what commodity, right? Any problem with this? Please do let me know. Now come to the committee recommendation. By heart the committee recommendations, right? Please by heart committee recommendations. Right? The committee recommends that you should consider both goods as well as services. In case of right, the commodities right now, there are 697 goods. Right now, we should expand it to 1196. Remove some of them, add more of them. You'll have totally 1196 items. The base year should also be changed. Existing base year for WPI is 11 and 12. Make it 17 and 18. It has also recommended, right, inclusion of certain commodities. For example, right, it has recommended inclusion of medicinal plants. It has recommended inclusion of right, mushrooms, brown rice, sanitizers, green tea, etc. And this side, right, what is the recommended change in the weightage? I repeat, what is the recommended change in the weightage that has been provided along with what is the existing weightage? For example, if you look at the table carefully, right now primary articles has around 22% weightage. This recommends to change the weightage to 24%. Fuel and power has a 13%. It recommends reduce it to 11%. Manufactured articles has a 64%. It recommends reduce it to 63%. And there is also a concept of a food index. What do you mean by food index? Please understand this carefully. The food index measures what is the change in the prices of food articles in the market. In the WPI, I repeat, in a WPI, right, basically there are certain food commodities. Food commodities, have a look at this, are present in the manufactured products. These are present in the primary articles as well. That is, it is there in the first group as well as the third group. So some of these items would be taken, and right, basically we will be having one more index only for tracking these articles, which is called as food index. Done? Right, so these are right, certain recommendations regarding WPI, wholesale price index. Should we remember this table? My recommendation, remember it. Suddenly it can be asked, right? Remember it. Under what factors base years is decided? Did I not say, please keep your questions about base year for some time? Simple. Did I not argue this earlier? We'll discuss base year separately. Please hold on to the question. Food index, again I'll repeat it. There are certain articles, products, which are there in two groups of articles, right? One is primary articles. Some of the food products are there here, and some of the food products are there in manufactured items group as well. Now, right? Simply track what is the change in the prices of only these food articles taken from these two groups. That is called as food index. Okay. Any other question? Cartelization earlier regulated by MRTP Act, now by CCI. Why? MRTP regulated only monopolies. I believe you already know the answer. Look at the name itself. MRTP focused on monopoly. What if there's a cartelization? MRTP becomes ineffective, right? Because it focuses on monopoly. That is the reason we have withdrawn MRTP and we have introduced a new concept called as Competition Commission of India, right, in 2002. Food index currently present in WPI, right? Right now we do not have it under WPI, we have it under CPI. Under CPI, we track food index. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll take a break now. Any other questions you people have? Please do let me know. So during growth, will there be no supply or par with the demand so that inflation can be under control? Always remember this. Whenever you supply, right, whenever you increase supply, the supply may not be as elastic as the elasticity in income. Let me know. Whenever there is a right increased growth, income will keep on increasing. The elasticity in the income could be much higher. Elasticity means growth. The rise in the income could be much higher compared to elasticity in supply, right? What if the demand increases by much higher percentage compared to supply? Because please understand, right? Think of this and tell me, does it cause inflation because of demand side factor? Right? Imagine the supply is 100 units and demand is 100 units. Let's assume supply becomes 110, but the demand is 150 units. Now, don't you think despite increased supply, there'll be inflation in the market? Let me know. Think of it. The supply has increased, but what has happened to the demand? The percentage growth in the demand is much higher compared to the rise in the supply, right? Because of this also there could be inflation. What if supply will fall down to 90? Is there inflation? Of course, yes, there is a inflation because the demand is already much higher compared to supply, right? That is the argument there. Can we say that factor cost increases leads to supply inflation? Yes, it can cause. If the factor cost in the form of, let's say, wages, in the form of profits will increase, automatically, right, the market prices will increase. Okay. And there is one more question. What is greedflation? Right. Greedflation is a combination of two terms, greedy plus inflation. Simple. Greedflation means what? Greedy plus inflation. This is greedflation. What is the meaning of greedflation? Recently, there is an argument that private sector companies, multinational companies, during pandemic, they increase the prices because right raw material cost increased. I'll give a very simple example. Let me know whether this is an argument for greedflation. Imagine you are purchasing raw material, or let's say rather than you, if I am purchasing raw material, I'm purchasing steel to manufacture this bottle and sell it in the market. Let's say during pandemic, supply of steel went down, there was a disruption, hence the market prices of the steel increased. Now, right, can I say market price will also increase because of this from 100 rupees to 110? Let me know. Can I say market price will also increase because of this from 100 rupees to 110? So this happened because of a disruption in the supply of steel commodity. But now pandemic is over, right? Pandemic is over now. Supply of steel has become normal, right? I am able to purchase steel at pre-pandemic prices. That is at lower prices. But I will not increase my market. I'm sorry, I will not decrease my market prices. Think of it, right? Now the pandemic is over. Supply of steel has improved. Prices have come down. I'm able to purchase a steel at a pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic means what was the price before the pandemic at lower price levels. But I will not reduce my market price. What does it mean? Does it mean that my profit margins have increased or not? Let me know. Does it not mean that my profit margins have increased now? This is greedflation. This is basically greedflation, right? Greedy plus inflation, greedflation, right? That is basically the argument. Okay. Anything else? Right? What is stagflation? We'll discuss that later. Okay. But sir, then other MNCs will decrease their prices and become more competitive. That is the argument. That is a counter argument. Right? Those who are asking, I know you already read the newspapers. It was there in Hindu only. The counter argument is it is private sector. Private sector will become very competitive. If one company does not reduce the market price from 110 to let's say 105, other companies will do. Which means, right, this company will start losing out in the market. Okay, done. So let's take a break now. Let's take a break. We'll start the discussion again at 8:17. 8:17. We'll start the discussion again at 8:17. Take a 10 minutes break. Let's say monthly basis, month to month basis, somebody will define it on annual basis. Right? So again, don't worry. Okay, done. Let me go to the next concept now. CPI, Consumer Price Index. CPI, Consumer Price Index. Now, previously, please understand the term previously. Right? I hope you know what you mean by previously. Previously, there were three different types of inflation under CPI, measures of inflation under CPI. That is, one is called as IW, UNME, and AL. Now, before you start typing what is IW, UNME, and AL, please understand. IW stands for industrial workers. UNME stands for urban non-manual employees. And the third one, AL, is agriculture labor. Now, earlier we used to calculate CPI, used CPI in these measures only. But today, please understand the next point carefully. Today, we calculate IW. We calculate it. We calculate AL. Both are, we calculate. UNME we don't calculate. We have discontinued it. Post 2010, we do not calculate urban non-manual employees. But if you read in the newspaper, CPI inflation, understand my next statement carefully. If you read in the newspaper CPI, are we talking about the IW CPI? No. Are we talking about AL CPI? Again, answer is no. Why? Today, we have CPI rural, that is in villages. How much is inflation? CPI urban, that is in cities. How much is the inflation? But more importantly, imagine nothing is given. Just they will write CPI. I repeat, more importantly, imagine nothing is given. They will simply write a CPI. Then they're talking about CPI combined. CPI combined means overall India. Overall India, what is the inflation rate in the retail market? Is the point clear with all of you? Please do let me know. Is the point clear? I said earlier, we did not calculate this. We simply calculated IW, UNME as well as AL. UNME has been discontinued. We do not calculate it now. AL we calculate. What is the use of the AL? Have you heard of the scheme Manrega? Let me know. Have you heard of the scheme Manrega or MNREGS? Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Under Manrega, government will provide wages. If I'm a worker under Manrega, beneficiary under Manrega, I will be given certain wages for 100 days of work. Now, do you think, is it appropriate for the government to keep Manrega wages uniform without changing it any year? Think of it. Does it make sense for the government to keep the wages same? They will not keep on changing. They will keep the same wage, whatever the year it is. Don't you think from one year to next year, prices in the market will keep on changing? Hence, Manrega wages will have to be adjusted. Now, on what basis? On what basis Manrega wages are adjusted? Please remember the point. Government uses CPI AL. Right? Government uses a CPI AL. CPI agriculture labor number is used. Right? That will be used to adjust Manrega wages by the government. And for the calculation of CPIL, base year is 86, 87. How many commodities are there in the basket? Only 6. Only 60. All of them are goods. And this is published by Ministry of Labor. Ministry of Labor, that is specifically there is a Labor Bureau. Labor Bureau, that is a department under Ministry of Labor. So this is published by Ministry of Labor. Now come to the first one, industrial worker, IW. Industrial worker has a base year of 2016. We include goods and services. 463 commodities are there in the basket. Services are included, and this is also published by Ministry of Labor. Now, many of you are asking, is this table important? Should we by heart it? My recommendation, please do. Please by heart this table. Don't waste your time. Do not try to understand anything in this table. Simply by heart it. Now, what is the use of industrial workers? What is the use of calculating industrial workers? Let me ask you a very simple question. Imagine you become IAS officer. Do you think your salary will be increased every year? Let me know. I'm talking about salary, by the way. Do you think your salary will be changed every year? Like private sector, in private, some of you saying yes. You do not know the reality then. Those who are saying yes, please tell me, how will your salary keep on changing? Let me know, right? Because as far as I know, your salary will not change. Those who are saying yes, please tell me how your salary will keep changing every year. Salaries are fixed. Salaries are fixed. What allowances you will get? The basic pay will remain fixed. What allowances you will get? Allowances will keep on changing. That is, please understand, government announces something called as dearness allowance. Government announces something called as a dearness allowance. In short, DA. In short, DA. Dearness allowance is announced by the government. Now, why? Why is government announcing dearness allowance? Reason is very simple. From one year to next year, the prices of goods and services in the market will change, but your basic pay will not change. Government officials, basic pay will not change. So inflation is there, but your pay is not changing. Will you be happy with that? In order to adjust for that inflation, government will provide you something by the name of dearness allowance. Dearness allowance is announced by the government. That is, changes in the dearness allowance is announced by the government in the month of January, in the month of July. 2 times in a year, and there is no compulsion. Generally, government announces changes in the dearness allowance in the month of January and in the month of July. And this dearness allowance, right? Dearness allowance basically is adjusted using CPI IW. CPI IW, that is Consumer Price Index, industrial workers. And this is paid based on your basic salary. Basic salary, whatever is your basic pay, on that dearness allowance is calculated and given to the government workers. Can I go forward now? Can I go forward? Why is dearness allowance not allowed in followed in private sector, my dear private sector? Right? You only tell me. Will you not receive appraisals every year? Think of it, no? Right? Rather than asking questions like this, please think of it. Right? Don't you think private sector every year, right? Annually appraisals are provided to you. Right? That is the reason. Done. So again, how it is calculated, how much percent? Waste of time. Don't worry about all of that. Come to the third one, urban non-manual employees. Right? 84, 85, that is a base year. 180 commodities are there. Goods and services are included. This is published by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Done. So earlier we used to use these three. Now we are calculating IW, we are calculating AL. But in addition to this, we are also calculating CPI in villages, that is CPI rural, CPI urban in cities, and right, a CPI combined. Right, a CPI combined. Now, what is this idea of a CPI rural? 448 commodities are there in the basket. Remember this. 448 commodities are there in the basket. CPI urban 460 commodities. Both goods and services are present in this 460. CPI combined 299. Both goods and services are present right here also. In right combined, that is for overall India. Any problem with this? Base year for the calculation of CPI is 2012, and CPI is published, calculated and published by National Statistical Office. Right, for every month this is published by NSO. Can we go forward? Sir, if CPI combined is used today, then why do we calculate CPI, IW and AL? My dear, don't you think, right, we should have a parameter to find out what should be the adjustment in the wages for agriculture labor? Point number one, agriculture labor. Point number two, right? Then some of you will say we have CPI rural for this. But tell me, consumption patterns of rural, right? Overall rural, don't you think slightly will be different compared to what is the consumption pattern of agriculture labor? Let me know, right? Don't you think consumption patterns will keep on changing? And that is the precise reason we have different baskets. You cannot take one basket, use it uniformly for whole of India. You cannot use it. That's the reason different consumption groups, different baskets are used. Now, in fact, many of you are asking, right, how these 299, 448, 460 are divided? One more table for you people. Should you buy out this complete table? My recommendation, don't waste your time. Focus only on the last column. Focus only on the last column and focus only on three groups. Only on three groups, right? Because these are dominant factors. First one is food and beverages. First one is food and beverages, right? That is in food and beverages, 45.86% is accounted. Weightage is given. Second highest is a miscellaneous. Don't start typing what is miscellaneous, what is present in that. Give me a minute. 28.32%. And food and beverages, it accounts for 6.8% weightage. Now, what commodities are there in miscellaneous? Right, a simple, right, a miscellaneous example, transportation. Right, I've given here transportation, health, communication, education, etc. All these components are there in the miscellaneous. It has got the second highest weightage under CPI. So my recommendation is, right, if you want, buy at the whole table. But I don't think so UPSC is going to ask you the whole table because there is so many numbers. It becomes very complicated to remember all the numbers. Combined is important, right? Basically, right, 45.8% has been given to food and beverages, highest weightage under CPI. Second highest is a miscellaneous, 28.32%, and right, a fuel and light, right, because fuel is anyways important, weightage of 6.8%. Done? Any problem with this? How will they ask question from the table? Can they ask a question like this? Right? Arrange the following in a descending order of their weightage. Let me know. Right? And that's the reason I ask you people to look at previous question papers. Right? And this shows that you people are not doing any work. Simple. You're not even doing any work. Can they ask a question? Arrange the following in descending order of weightage. Arrange the following in ascending order of weightage. Or they will give you 5 groups and ask you which is the highest weighted, etc. etc. All these are kind of questions which UPSC can ask you. Okay. Now, right, let me go to this idea. Divergence. Divergence means difference. Right? Divergence is basically difference. Now, why is there that CPI, right? If you look at the graph that I given here, please do not by heart the graph. Please do not by heart the graph, right? Please not waste your time. right? If you want to look at the numbers, right, that is how CPI is moving, how WPI is moving. If you look at the data, you will realize that for certain time period, CPI will be increasing, WPI will be decreasing. For certain time period, CPI is very high, WPI is negative. Can you see WPI negative? Let me know. I'm talking about this point, this data point. Can I say this data point is a WPI being negative? For certain time period, both CPI and WPI will move in same direction. Right? Answer is, question is why? Why is that this kind of a behavior is observed? Why not both move always in the same direction? Why not both move always right in the same percentage, etc., etc.? Right? That is basically the argument of divergence. Divergence means why both behave differently. Why both of them behave differently. Right? These are the points. Please remember this. Point number one. Right? Can I simply say the weightages are different for the components in both WPI and CPI? Let me know. The weightages are different, right, for both WPI and CPI. Point number two, the basket is also different for both goods and, for both WPI and CPI. Right, in case of WPI, we have 697 commodities. In case of CPI, we have 299 commodities. In case of CPI, goods and services both are covered. In case of WPI, only goods is covered. Third, base year is also different. Base year is also different. Right? For CPI, base year is 11 and 12. Sorry, for WPI, base year is 11 and 12. For CPI, base year is only 2012. And fourth one, there is one more term called as base effect. We'll discuss this in some time. Please give me some time. Fourth one is a base effect, right? What is this idea of a base effect? Follow this very carefully. Understand this point very carefully, right? If you're not listening, don't, right, keep on asking the same thing. Listen first. Now, what is this base effect? Now, imagine you're reading newspaper. Okay, imagine you're reading newspaper, and in the newspaper, the article says, for the month of June 2023, for the month of June 2023, inflation rate is 6%. Whether WPI, CPI, don't worry. Inflation rate is 6%. Now you think of it. Think logically and tell me, this June 2023, if they are saying inflation rate is 6%, what are they comparing against? If they are saying the inflation rate is 6%, right, how it is 6%? What are they comparing this, right, against, and they are arriving at a decision, it is 6%. Can I say they are comparing this with June 2022? Don't say previous month. Wrong. Don't say previous month. It is wrong. Why? I'll tell you. Do you think it makes sense to compare, right, the inflation level, or let's say price levels of this month with previous month? Let me know. Does it make sense to you? That is, don't you think from one month to another month, there'll be differences in behavior of people in the market? Right? That is the reason. Now tell me, does it make sense for you to compare what was the price level for the basket of goods and services in June 22 with, right, the prices of basket of goods and services in June 2023? Let me know, does it make sense or it makes no sense to you? Right? Just like GDP. Do you remember GDP? Tell me, right, I'll ask you a very simple question. From, right, let's say from this quarter, right, this quarter, let's say quarter 1 financial year 23. When they say GDP growth rate for quarter 1 financial 23, what are they comparing against and telling you GDP growth rate is 10%? Think of it. If the newspaper says quarter 1 financial year 23 GDP growth rate is 10%, against what? Where was, right, 100 crore, now it has become 110. What is that 100 crore? Which year? They will compare that with quarter 1 financial year 22. Yes or no? Anybody has a problem with this? Right? Why should they compare for the same period? What is the logic behind it? Let me give a very simple example. Right? And this is a very common question. You already, I believe, you have answered to this question. Please tell me, please tell me, can I simply say in the quarter 3 of any financial year, demand for goods and services will be higher in the economy? Let me know. In the quarter 3 of a financial year, any financial year for that matter, the demand for goods and services, will it be higher in the economy or not? Think logically. Sir, why it will be higher? My dear, look at what months will fall in the third quarter. Those who are saying no, look at what will fall in the third quarter. October, November, and December. Right? Don't you think October, November, December is right synonymous in India with festivals? Lot of festivals, year end. Think of it. Right? Lot of festivals will come in the third quarter as well as year end. New Year celebration will also come in the third quarter. Now, do you think it makes a better sense to compare quarter 3 with quarter 2 GDP number? Or it makes more sense to compare quarter 3 of this year with quarter 3 of previous financial year? I hope you understood now. I hope you have understood now why generally whatever you are talking about, let's say you are talking about July inflation of this year, what you do is you take July of last year, what was the prices of basket of goods and services in July 2022, what is it in July 2023. If you talk about August inflation, August for 2023, you take August for last year, what was the price, and August this year, what is the price. Right? This is the comparison that they do. Now, let me ask you a very simple question. What if in July last year, there was a huge scale floods in the economy? Simple question to all of you. What if July last year there was a huge scale rainfall in India? Agriculture sector was basically destroyed. Production was very low. Right? Production was very low. As a result of this, please do let me know. Don't you think inflation in last year's, let's say June or July, whatever it is, right? Inflation in last year July, that is market prices of goods and services, would be very high. Does it make sense to you? Market prices for basket of goods and services would be very high. Right? Maybe tomato prices will become 500 rupees per kg. Right? Maybe onion prices will become 200 rupees per kg, etc. etc. So basket of goods and services prices would become very high. Now, compared to that, let's say July 2023. What if in July 2023 there was normal monsoon? Not more nor less. Normal monsoon. Right? Agriculture production, normal. Nothing unusual. Normal. Now, please tell me, don't you think the market prices of goods and services in July 23 would be, right, just basic prices? Basic in the sense, whatever normal prices are there generally in the market. Right? Now make a comparison. What if because of this, right, the floods that happened in July, for basket of goods and services, prices became 500 rupees. Now, July 2023, nothing has happened. Everything is normal in the economy. Agriculture sector, normal production. Right? Prices of the steel, normal. Prices of pulses, normal. And as a result of this, what if the basket of goods and services will cost you the normal amount, 200 rupees? Now make a comparison. Because of this base, understand, base means what? I'm comparing. Because of this uneven base or abnormal base, can I say this? Because of this uneven base or abnormal base, don't you think July 23 data would be affected? Let me know. right? I'm making a comparison. July 2023, what is the price level? I'm trying to compare that with July 2022. What is the price level? Now, because I'm taking this July 22 as a base to compare the prices, right? And this is abnormal, right? You will not always have unseasonal rainfall. You will not always have higher market prices for tomatoes, abnormal base. When I make a comparison, will it have an impact on inflation rate of July 2023? Of course, yes. This is called as base effect. This is called as a base effect. Right, done. So the divergence between right both WP and CPI is because of difference in the weightages, difference in the basket, different base year, and also base effect. Okay, so these are certain important points. Please remember them. Please remember this can be asked UPSC, right? This can be asked in UPSC prelims. Now, please understand base effect is different, base year is different. Can I, right? Please observe, no? Right? Please make observation. Have I written base year separately as base effect separately? Have I written two different points or not? Base year is separate, base effect is separate. Both are different. How base year is used? Have patience. I will tell you that. Have patience. I don't understand why you people don't have patience. Right? If I don't teach base effect or base year, then you complain. I have the I'm absolutely wrong there. But when I say have patience, we'll discuss why not wait. Have patience. Okay. So base effect will also have an impact on what is the prices, what is the inflation rate for different right groups or different commodities. Done. So this is the divergence. Let me go to next. How to compare 500 with Are Baba, right? Why do you keep on right complaining every time? My dear, I'm saying July 2023, what is inflation rate? Right? If I ask you what is inflation rate for July 2023, how will you say that? How will you say July 2023 6% was the inflation rate? On what basis did you come to conclusion? Did you not compare that with last year's July and tell me 6%? So I'm saying, what if in July last year the prices were very, very high for basket of goods and services? Then basically it will have an impact on what is the inflation rate for July 2023 because you are comparing. That's as simple as that. Okay. And again, those who are asking about base year, I'll not answer to you people. Now I'll not answer because it doesn't make any sense to keep on repeating the same thing to you people. Okay. Despite saying have patience, I'll tell about base year, but again they'll keep on asking base year only. Okay. Anyways, you keep on asking. I'll not keep on answering the same thing. Next important concept, flexible inflation targeting. Okay, flexible inflation targeting. Now, what is the concept of flexible inflation targeting? Let me start the discussion here. Let me start the discussion. Again, those are asking about base year, don't waste your time. I will not answer it. Why? You will have to wait. I cannot jump everything and start answering to your question. I will discuss base year after some time. Have patience. So, flexible inflation targeting. Now, what is the idea of flexible inflation targeting? Earlier, if you remember, don't you think there is a dilemma for RBI? There is always a dilemma for RBI. What is the dilemma? If RBI reduces interest rate, can it promote growth? Let me know. If RBI reduces interest rate, can it promote growth? Yes. But is there a danger of higher inflation rate in the market? Is there a danger that inflation rate will become higher? Yes. On the other side, if RBI increases interest rate, is there the policy where RBI can increase in interest rate and control inflation? Can it use this to control inflation? Yes. But on the other side, please understand, if RBI will increase interest rate, what will happen to the growth? What will happen to the growth? Don't you think it will limit growth for Indian economy? You could have achieved 8% growth rate. You will end up achieving 6%. So it will have a limitation effect on the growth. Now this is the dilemma for RBI. This is the dilemma. Should I focus on growth? Should I focus on inflation then? I hope you understand. The dilemma that RBI faces is, should I focus on the growth or should I focus on controlling inflation? Because now look at it and please tell me, can I say RBI finds it very difficult to achieve higher growth, lower inflation simultaneously? Let me know. Can I say RBI will find it very difficult to achieve both, that is, higher growth and lower inflation simultaneously? Right? That is the reason I said there is a dilemma for RBI. There is a dilemma. And to address this issue, what has been done now? Government of India and Reserve Bank of India have signed one agreement. This agreement is known as Monetary Policy Framework Agreement. Monetary Policy Framework Agreement. MPFA, Monetary Policy Framework Agreement. And under the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, next point I'm going now. Under the MPFA, Government of India, in consultation with RBI, will give inflation target which has to be met by RBI. I'll repeat the statement. Under MPFA, Government of India, in consultation with RBI, will decide an inflation target, and RBI has to ensure through its policies the inflation target is met. Now, what is the inflation target given by the government? 4% is the inflation target. And this inflation, it is nothing but CPI. Remember this. This inflation is nothing but CPI, Consumer Price Index inflation. Okay. So 4% is the target. Now, for how many years you will have to maintain 4%? This was implemented from 2016. I repeat, this was implemented from 2016. From 2016 to 2021, for 5 years, 4% target was given by the government. Now, again from 2021 to 2026, 5 more years. From 2021 to 2026, again the target of 4% has been given by the government. Again, the target of 4% has been given by the government. Point number 3. If you are the RBI governor, please tell me, is it possible to maintain inflation exactly at 4%? Think of it. If you are the RBI governor, is it possible for you to maintain inflation exactly at 4% all the time? It's not possible. It's never possible for you. Now, don't you think certain flexibility should be given in target of inflation? Does it make sense to you? Certain flexibility should be provided. That is the flexibility. 4% plus or minus 200 basis points is nothing but 2%. 4% plus or minus 2%, which means your target is 4%. You'll have to ensure inflation rate is 4%. But now you can allow the inflation rate to go up to 4% plus 2%, that is 6%. Highest rate of inflation that you're allowed to live up to is 6%. And the lowest inflation rate will be 4% minus 2%, that will be 2%. Now, is the logic okay? The target is 4%, but you always cannot ensure 4%. So, there is a flexibility provided. And when flexibility is provided, right, basically, right, up to what level? What is the highest level that you're allowed to live inflation? 6%. What is the lowest level, right, where inflation can fall up to 2%? Right. So basically, it is 4% with the highest band of 6, lowest band of 4%. Okay. So this is the target that has been given by Government of India to RBI. Now, next important point. Now, if Government of India will give the target to inflation, target rate of inflation to RBI, Don't you think? Don't you think it becomes one of the functions of RBI to maintain inflation rate at 4%? Let me know. If government of India will give you a target 4%, don't you think that becomes your function now? Why this is important? Please understand this. Whenever a function has to be done by RBI, all the functions of RBI, whatever RBI does, the role of RBI governor, the role of RBI, the composition of RBI, the powers of RBI, everything comes from one of the act called as RBI Act of 1934. Right? The role, responsibility, objective, powers, functions, composition for RBI, all of them come from RBI Act of 1934. Now let me ask you a simple question. I am the government. I will ask you, this is one more function. You will have to control inflation at 4% now. Now please tell me, can RBI do this function without amending RBI Act? Let me know. Can RBI do this function without amending RBI Act? Or some of us saying yes. I don't know what you people keep on listening to or what you keep on right looking at. Right? Listen to the lecture carefully. No, I'm saying whatever is the role of RBI, function of RBI, everything is derived from RBI Act. Now, how can you take up one more function without amending RBI Act? You tell me. What are you thinking? You tell me first. Let me see then. Right? So that is the reason Government of India amended RBI Act of 1934 and introduced the function of controlling inflation for Reserve Bank of India. Done? Right? You please observe, you please right listen to the lecture very carefully. No, you people don't listen, that becomes a problem. Right? So these are certain very important points regarding the concept of the inflation targeting. Now look at the heading: flexible inflation targeting. Flexible inflation targeting. Right? Does it make sense to you why they're calling this as a flexible inflation targeting? Now there is one more point here. What is one more point? The government of India wants RBI to maintain it at 4%. Maximum is 6%, lower is 2%. Now the question is, what if it crosses 6%? What if it falls below 2%? Is there any provision regarding this? Have a look at this. If inflation goes above 6%, if inflation will go above 6% or falls below 2% for 3 consecutive quarters. I repeat, if inflation crosses more than 6% or falls below 2% for 3 consecutive quarters. What do you mean by 3 consecutive quarters? Can I say 9 months? Any problem? Can I say 9 months? Continuously for 9 months. So, if inflation goes above 6% for consecutively 3 quarters, continuous 3 quarters, and falls below 2% for continuous 3 quarters, then RBI has to give an explanation to Government of India. RBI has to give an explanation to Government of India. What explanation? RBI has to tell Government of India what were the reasons why inflation is happening. What measures are being used by RBI to control inflation, etc. Has it happened? Has it ever happened that for 3 consecutive quarters? That is very important. That is very, very important. For example, let me know. Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. For current financial year, let's say quarter 1 for next financial year. Tell me example 1. Example 1, inflation rate, right? Quarter 2 is 7%. Quarter 3 is 2%. And quarter 4 is, let's say, 8%. Please tell me, is it satisfying the condition here? Let me know. Is it satisfying the condition here? What if I say quarter 1 was 9%? Now, some of you are saying yes. Right? I don't know what you're looking at. Some of you are saying yes. Great. Wonderful. You're focused too much in the classroom now. Some of you are saying yes. Is it satisfying this condition? If quarter 1 and quarter 2 is above 6%, quarter 3 is 2%. Is it satisfying the condition? Right? How? How? Very, very bad. I don't want to take the names of the students, but very, very bad. Okay. Now let me give you one more example. Quarter 3 is 8%. Sorry, quarter 3 is 8%. Quarter 4 is 9%. Quarter 1 is 7%. Please tell me, is it satisfying the condition now? Is it satisfying the condition? Of course, yes. Of course, yes. Again, some of you are saying no. Very, very bad, Baba. I don't know what to do with those people. Very, very bad. Is it satisfying the condition? How difficult it is? How difficult it is? Statement is for three continuous quarters, inflation rate is more than 6% or less than 2%. Now, in the second example, for 3 continuous quarters, is the inflation rate not above 6%? Simple. Right? Some of you are not able to read what is more than 6 and what is less than 2. Then basically you'll have to go to your primary school now. Whether 8 is greater than 6 or not. Whether 9 is greater than 6 or not. You'll have to study that. Okay, very bad. Those who are answering wrong. So this is the condition. Has it happened in India? Has it happened in India? Right now, last year, please check the data. Last year, from the month of March and April, continuously, right? In fact, in the month of February also, continuously, right? The inflation rate has been above 6%. Last year, this has actually happened. Continuously for 3 quarters, it has been above 6% only. That is a fourth quarter, first quarter, and the second quarter. Continuously, right, for 3 consecutive quarters, it was more than 6%. Right? Now, next point, once every 6 months, RBI has to publish a report. RBI has to publish a report, right, providing information about movement of inflation. How inflation is going, right? How inflation is moving in the market. What is the cause of the inflation? What will happen in the coming days, etc. Right? A report has to be published by RBI. Okay? Right? So these are certain important points regarding flexible inflation targeting. Any problem here? So what has been the experience? What has been the experience of the flexible inflation targeting? What is the third point? It was signed. My dear, how difficult is the third point? Many of you are saying, explain third point. The agreement was signed in 2015 and was implemented from 2016. I don't know. Right? What is the difficulty in that? Agreement was signed in 2015 and was implemented from 2016. Okay. Now, next one. What has been the performance of this? Right? Point number 1. Inflation rate has remained within the range for majority period of the time. What is the range here? 4%, 6%, and 2%. Right? 6% is the highest, 2% is the lowest. So inflation for majority period of the time has remained within this range. Right? Point number 1. In recent months, there has been a spike in the inflation rate. Again, understand this. This is what RBI says. In recent months, there has been a spike in the inflation rate. For example, last year, there was a spike. Even now, spike means rise. There was a rise in the inflation rate. But please understand the next point very carefully. The rise in the inflation in the recent times, it is because of certain external events or internal events which are beyond the control of RBI. I'll repeat the statement. Right? The recent spike in the inflation rate, it is because of certain external factors or internal factors which are beyond the control of RBI. Sir, what do you mean by that? Let me ask you a very simple question. If tomato prices will contribute to inflation, do you think RBI can control tomato prices? Think of it and please do let me know. If fuel prices will contribute to inflation, do you think RBI has any control over fuel prices? Answer is no. In simple terms, please look at the next statement. Can I say RBI's policies will be more effective whenever the inflation is caused because of demand side factors? Let me know. I'll repeat the statement again. RBI's policies, right, will be very effective whenever the inflation is caused because of demand side factors. If the demand is very high, RBI can control the demand by increasing interest rates in the market. Make it much more costlier for you to borrow from the market. So money supply can control demand, can be controlled, right, to control inflation. But on the other side, what if it is happening because of supply side factors? What if Russia and Ukraine will go to war? Price of petrol will go up. What if floods will happen? Prices of onion will increase. Prices of tomato will increase. Prices of turmeric will increase. Does RBI have any role in supply side? RBI does not have a role there. RBI cannot control these factors on the supply side. RBI can control the factors on the demand side. Having said so, now do let me know, don't you think despite government saying it is the role of RBI to control inflation, don't you think even government of India will play a very important role in controlling inflation? Let me know. Don't you think even government of India will play a very important role in controlling inflation? So please be very careful. These kind of statements have been asked by UPSC. Right? They have been asked. In fact, I'll show you tomorrow. Right? One of the statements says government has no role in controlling inflation. Many students will end up picking it correct because they have read the flexible inflation targeting, where government says RBI has to control inflation. Right? But don't you think supply side, government has more role to play. Government has more role to play. Okay. Now, apart from this, the average rate of inflation 5 years before 2016, right? Average rate of inflation 5 years before 2016 and 5 years from 2016. Many of you will ask me, sir, why are you talking about 2016? Right? Basically, it is from 2016 when inflation targeting was implemented. So 5 years after 2016, after the targeting was implemented, and 5 years before 2016, before targeting was implemented. If you make a comparison, can you come to know whether the targeting has been successful or not? For example, look at the data. 5 years before the targeting was implemented, the average rate of inflation was 5.7%. And 5 years since the implementation of targeting, average rate is 3.47%. Which means, don't you think, because of inflation targeting policy, we have been able to reduce the rate of inflation. We have been able to successfully control the rate of inflation around 4%. That is another point. And finally, there is a transparency in the policy making now. How? Let me explain. Before the inflation targeting was implemented, the monetary policy was decided by group of 5 people, and all the 5 people were from Reserve Bank of India. I'll repeat the statement. Before inflation targeting was implemented in India, the monetary policy was decided by a committee of 5 people, and all the 5 people were from Reserve Bank of India. What has Government of India done? Government of India has amended RBI Act. Government of India has amended RBI Act. Now the new committee will consist of 6 people. The new committee will consist of 6 people. Out of these 6 people, 3 will be experts appointed by Government of India. Out of RBI, non-RBI members, 3 people are experts who are appointed by Government of India, and remaining 3 people will be from Reserve Bank of India. RBI, Reserve Bank of India. And whenever the monetary policy committee, right, is meeting, once the meeting is done, after a couple of days, RBI itself will give you a document. Right? The document is called as minutes of meeting. Have you heard of the term minutes of meeting? Very famous. Minutes of meeting, very common term. What do you mean by minutes of meeting? What was discussed? What was discussed in the committee? There is a document. What was discussed in the committee? What did RBI governor say? What did this expert committee say? What was the viewpoint of this person? All of these are documented. Can you get access to that document? RBI says, yes, take it. Can government get the access to that document? Yes, RBI will publish it. RBI itself will publish it. Now, can I say this has improved transparency in the decision making? Let me know. Can I say this has improved, right, transparency in the decision making process? Right, and please remember this committee now, which has 6 people, the chairperson, the head of the committee is RBI governor. RBI governor is the chairperson of this monetary policy committee now. Right, so these are certain important points regarding the concept of flexible inflation targeting, FIT. Very, very famous. Please be very careful. Okay, please be very careful. Now, next concept is right, headline and core inflation. Headline and core inflation. Right, headline and core inflation. Now, what is the meaning of headline and core inflation? Let me ask you a very simple question. In CPI, how many articles are there? Tell me now. In CPI, how many articles are there? 299? 299 articles. Now, don't you think out of these 299 articles, there will be certain articles whose prices are unstable? Let me know. Whose prices are very much unstable? I can use the term unstable, or I can use the term prices are volatile. Sir, what do you mean by unstable prices here? Please tell me. Prices of fuel. Price of fuel. Is it stable or unstable? Will the prices keep on fluctuating or right have very, very minor changes? Don't you think prices of fuel are unstable, very much volatile? What about food products? What about agriculture commodities? For example, tomato. Right, let me know. For example, tomato, best example, tomato. Onion, potato, pulses, green leafy vegetables. Right, do you think the prices are stable? No, prices are very unstable, very volatile. Now, what I'm trying to convey you people of, the message is very simple. Can I say out of 299 articles, for some of the articles, prices are very much unstable, very much volatile. Right? For example, tomato in 1 month will be 5 rupees a kg. In another month will become 200 rupees per kg. Right? In some case, right? In some case, prices of onion will be 20 rupees per kg. And in another case, after 3 months, prices will become 80 rupees per kg. Now, next important question. When prices of very few of these goods will keep on fluctuating so much, can I also say because of these unstable prices, overall inflation can also go up or go down? Let me know. Overall inflation can also go up, can also go down. They can drag the prices of the whole basket very high or to a very low level. What is the problem with this? What is the problem? Problem is, imagine petrol prices will go to 150 rupees and right, onion prices right now will start increasing and reach 120 rupees. Tomato prices will remain same at 200 rupees. And as a result of these kind of commodities, imagine inflation is above 6%. Let's say it reaches 8%. Inflation reaches 8%, maybe next month. Hypothetical number, by the way. Now, if you are the RBI governor, you tell me what will you do? Think of it. If inflation rate reaches to 8%, if you are RBI governor, what will you do? Will you not increase interest rates? Yes or no? Will you not increase interest rates? Yes, you will increase interest rates. But next point is important. Do you think the prices of these commodities will remain higher always? Let me know. Do you think the prices of these commodities will always remain higher? No. In the month of August, imagine they are very, very high. Let's say in the month of September, supply increases, automatically prices will fall down. What if the tomato prices will become 10 rupees per kg in the month of November or October, or for that matter, September? What if onion prices will become 10 rupees per kg in the month of September? Don't you think supply might increase suddenly in the market? Now, as a result of this, what if inflation will fall down to, let's say, 5.6%? What if inflation because of that will fall down to 5.6%? Now, do you think RBI suddenly changing interest rate? In 1 month, they have increased interest rates, and suddenly after that, in 1 more month, they will decrease, or let's say after 2 months, they will decrease interest rates. Do you think this is a stable policy followed by RBI? Think of it. Do you think this one, that is right now, you will increase interest rate, and after 2 months, you will decrease interest rate? Do you think that is a stable policy followed by RBI? No, this is not a stable policy. And you need stable policies in the economy, especially from an authority such as RBI. You require the policies to be stable. Why, sir? Many of you ask me, why, sir? Why you want RBI policies to be stable? In 1 month, interest rate will go up, people will reduce consumption. In another month, interest rate will go down, people will suddenly start increasing consumption. Don't you think this kind of volatility does not benefit economy? Let me know. This kind of volatility in policy, this kind of uncertainty in the policy, right? Investors will never be happy. Consumers will never be happy. You and me should not be happy with all of this. That is the reason. But please understand, I'm going to introduce one more concept now. Please understand this. There's a term called as headline inflation. What do you mean by headline inflation? Whatever commodities are there in the basket, whatever commodities are there in the basket, you will take all the commodities to calculate inflation. Any problem, please do let me know. What is headline inflation? Whatever commodities are there in the basket, you will take all the commodities to calculate inflation. That is called as headline inflation. Now there is one more core inflation. There is one more core inflation. What do you mean by core inflation? Some time ago, we understood that within 299 articles, there are certain commodities, certain goods whose prices are unstable. Now, when you talk about core inflation, out of these basket of commodities, you will exclude, I repeat, you will exclude those articles whose prices are unstable. Is it okay? You will exclude those articles or those products whose prices are unstable. Can I say food articles prices are very much unstable? Fuel articles prices are very much unstable. So out of 299 articles, you remove food articles, you remove fuel articles, and calculate inflation for remaining articles. That is called as core inflation. Anybody has a problem, please do let me know right now. First one is headline. Headline means you include all the articles. Whatever articles are there in the basket, you calculate inflation for that. And core inflation means there are certain articles, goods, in simple terms, goods. Goods prices, right, which are unstable prices. You exclude means what? You remove them from the basket, and whatever goods are left out, for these goods, you calculate inflation. That is basically core inflation. And in case of India, we generally exclude food and fuel articles and calculate for remaining, and that is called as core inflation. Now, don't you think core inflation is a better indicator compared to headline? Let me know. Right, I'm asking you the next question here. Don't you think core inflation is a better indicator compared to headline? Any problem with this? Why? In headline, right, the inflation rate could be 8%, but that is because of these products whose prices are very volatile. And in case of right core inflation, we are going to remove all of them. That is the reason, right, core inflation is a better indicator compared to headline. Now the question is, in case of India, right, if you remember, RBI has been asked to maintain inflation rate at 4%. Which inflation? CPI. And within CPI, are you talking about headline or core? We are talking about headline. We are simply talking about headline inflation. Now, question is, sir, on one side you say core inflation is better compared to headline. But on the other side, you are only saying, right, despite being better, in India, we basically track headline CPI, not core CPI, to make policies. Why? What is the reason? Let me give you explanation here. First, I will tell you the points which have been given by RBI in favor of headline. And second, right, I will also give you the points why core is better than headline. RBI should use core. Let's start. Just some time ago, we have discussed whether the inflation targeting has been successful or not successful. Don't you think, if you look at this data, and this is what I'm talking about, if you look at this data, you will come to a conclusion, despite of using headline inflation, to a very greater extent, we have been able to control inflation around 4%, which is the target for RBI. Think of it. We used a headline earlier, and today also we are using headline. But despite using headline, right, which we are saying it is not better compared to core, are we successful in controlling inflation around 4%? Answer is yes. So now the argument of RBI is simple. If the methodology is successful, using core, we are able to control inflation, why should we shift? Correct? Why should we shift? Let's continue with headline inflation only. Second, the argument is prices of food and fuel, these are very volatile. And you exclude them to calculate core. But please tell me, don't you think food prices and fuel prices will affect common man? Let me know. Don't you think food prices and fuel prices will affect common man? That is you and me. But are they tracked? Are they included in the calculation of core inflation? Think of it. Are they included in the calculation of core inflation? No. Which means RBI is making a policy on a parameter which does not include food and fuel, which affects mostly the common man. Don't you think, right? Don't you think the policy will be erratic? Don't you think policy is not representative of what is affecting all of us? That is the reason RBI says, let me continue to target headline inflation. I hope you understand. Let me continue to target headline inflation itself. So these are some of the arguments. These are some of the arguments which RBI has said in favor of headline. And even today, RBI takes headline inflation only, right, in inflation targeting. But having said so, there are also experts who say, no, don't use headline, use core. Don't use headline, use core inflation, right, to make policies. What are their arguments? Right, you already have discussed it. Let's put it in the form of statement. Headline inflation includes commodities whose prices are volatile, and core inflation excludes those prices, right, or those commodities whose prices are volatile. So looking at it, core inflation technically is a better, right, quality indicator compared to headline. So use core. Second argument, if core inflation is stable, right, and headline inflation keeps on, right, moving up and down like this, RBI should not be worried, should not keep on changing the policy rates. If core rate is same, core rate is not changing by much, core inflation remains stable, headline will keep on changing, right? But core does not consist of products whose price are volatile. So RBI, if they target core, they don't have to keep on changing the policy rates very, very often. That kind of uncertainty will not be present if you have core inflation as a target rate, right? Policies will be much more stable by RBI. These are the arguments given in favor of core inflation. Done? But please understand, even after this, RBI says we will have, right, headline inflation as a target. We will have headline inflation as a target itself. We will not shift it to core inflation. Can we go to the next one here? Let me know. Some of you are asking, what is the definition of core? What is the definition of headline? Right, I've given it here. Please have a look at it. Right, please have a look at it. Core inflation, it is the inflation rate, right, where volatile commodities such as food and fuel are ignored. Ignored means excluded. Excluded from the basket of commodities. Headline inflation means measures the total inflation in the economy, that is, all the goods and services which are there in the basket will be considered in the headline. Any problem here? Any problem? And again, many of you are asking, why does RBI use it? Did I not give arguments in favor of headline? Please tell me. Many of you are asking, sir, core is better than headline. Why is RBI not shifting? Did I just now say what are the arguments of RBI in favor of headline? That is the reason RBI says, even then I'll stick with headline. Okay, done. Now certain more concepts, right? Certain more slides are there before this, right? Don't say I'm skipping it. We'll come back to this. Don't worry, right? Tomorrow I'll take it up. Let me take up smaller concepts because time is lesser. Smaller concepts. One is called as a deflation. Second one is called as a disinflation. Right? One is a deflation. Second one is a disinflation. Now, what do you mean by deflation? What is meaning of disinflation? Whenever you say deflation, negative, right, growth in the inflation rate. Negative rate of inflation is called as deflation. Sir, what do you mean by that? Let me ask you a very simple question. Imagine in July 2022, for basket of goods and services, prices was 360 rupees. Simple numbers. Don't calculate, nothing is required. Just understand the logic here. In July 2022, the basket of commodities, the price was 360. In July 23, the basket of goods and services, the prices is 300 rupees. Please answer to this question. Has the price level increased or decreased? And this is not at all difficult. You don't have to be an economist here. Have the price levels increased or decreased? The price levels have decreased. Can I say inflation rate is negative here? Let me know. Can I say inflation rate is negative? So whenever inflation rate is negative, we'll call this as deflation. We'll call this as a deflation. That is, price levels will not increase. Price levels will in fact fall down. Now come to the second point. Many students get confused between the first and second. Listen to the discussion carefully. There is a disinflation. What do you mean by disinflation? Inflation rate is actually slowing down. What is the meaning of it? Let me show you an example. Right? Imagine, right? I'll just throw numbers. Don't worry about month, etc. I'll just throw numbers. 100 rupees, 110 rupees, 115 rupees, 116 rupees. Please tell me. Look at the price levels and please tell me, point number one. Has the price level increased or decreased? From left to the right. From the left to the right, has the price level increased or decreased? Increased. Can I say this is inflation? Any problem here? Can I say this is inflation? Right? Point number two. What has been the inflation rate? From 100 to 110, inflation rate is 10%. From right 110 to 115, I'll just round off the number. I'll simply round off the number. Right, somewhere around 4%. And from 115 to 116, again, I'll simply round off the number 1%. Can I say inflation rate is slowing down? Let me know. Can I say inflation rate is actually slowing down? Inflation is there. Price levels are increasing, but the inflation rates are slowing down. This is called as a disinflation. This is called as a disinflation. Any difficulty between deflation and disinflation? Deflation, price levels will decrease. Straightforward, it will decrease. Whereas a disinflation, price levels will increase, but at a slower rate. That is disinflation. Right? Next concept, inflation tax. Next concept is inflation tax. What do you mean by inflation tax? Right, I'll give you a very simple example. Imagine you have a cash of 100 rupee. Imagine you have a 100 rupee cash. Last year, using 100 rupee, you could have purchased, I'll take the same number that I took earlier, 2 kgs of tomato. This year you have 100 rupee, same cash. You will go to the market. Now you will be able to purchase, let's say, simple number, 1 kg of tomato. Now please tell me, is it okay if I say because of higher inflation rate? Because of higher inflation rate, what is the purchasing power of the cash would be reduced over a period of time? Let me know. Yes or no? Right? Correct or wrong? Because of a higher inflation rate, or because if there is any inflation rate in the economy, whatever cash you have, the purchasing power of cash will continuously become lower, will become eroded. Eroded means lower. Now this erosion, this lowering of purchasing power of the cash is called as inflation tax. It is referred to as inflation tax. It is the penalty as the customer holds cash during the times of inflation. Penalty means what? Purchasing power is being taken away from your cash. That is inflation tax. And the last point for today, base effect. Did we discuss the concept of base effect some time ago? What is the meaning of base effect? The impact of variation of price levels of the reference period on the present price levels. That is, if you remember, I said, what was the price level for basket of goods and services in 2022 July? It will have an impact on what is the inflation rate for July 2023. This is called as base effect. Done? Right. So last concept is stagflation. I'll simply give you the statement. We'll discuss it tomorrow. What is in the stagflation? It is a situation where inflation and unemployment levels both are very high. I'll repeat the statement here. What is stagflation? It is a situation in the economy, right, wherein the unemployment rate as well as inflation, both of them are higher. This is called as stagflation. Now, why it will happen? Right? What are the causes? Is there any exception to this? Etc. Etc. We'll discuss it tomorrow. We'll start from this point tomorrow. And those people who keep on asking base year, let me show you, my dear, have I written the concept of base year or not? Right? Can you see this nominal and current, nominal, current, real, constant, etc.? All of this is related to concept of base year itself, which we'll discuss tomorrow. That's the reason I keep on telling you people, have patience. Always have patience. It's not that I'm going to run away. It's not that this is my last class. We'll meet again tomorrow. We'll discuss it. Right? I'll tell you what is base year, how it is selected, what is the impact of that. We'll discuss everything. Please do not worry. And if you remember, earlier there is a concept of GDP deflator. Yes or no? Earlier, there was a question on GDP deflator. I said, we'll discuss GDP deflator later. Please have a look at it. It is there in a separate slide, which we'll take it up tomorrow. Right? So don't worry. I'm not going to jump anything. I'm not going to leave anything. Whatever is there, we'll discuss it. Done? Now, if you have any kind of questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, we'll stop the discussion. Those people who do not have any questions, right, you can leave. Again, if you want to stay. I don't have any problem. But many of you would, right, be going to college or office, right? If you ask me, are you going to discuss any more concept? Absolutely no. I'll simply address questions now. Okay. How the RBI controls volatile prices since they cannot change interest rates very quickly. I told you precisely this only, right? Precisely this only. It's very difficult for RBI, right? That is the reason, despite inflation rate being higher in recent times, RBI is not changing interest rate very quickly because that creates uncertainty, policy uncertainty in the economy. Okay. We follow fixed base method, then how data of previous year affects as we compare data that of again. Question on base year, I'll not address it. Inflation is boosted by demand. One of the biggest contributors to increase in demand comes from increase in government expenditure. How can RBI manage inflation if there are changes in fiscal market? If government will increase its expenditure, can RBI reduce overall supply in the money in the market? Think of it. If right, government of India will increase the expenditure, increasing the supply of money, can RBI reduce money supply in the market? Answer is yes. How so? We'll discuss. There are tools such as repo rate, CRR, SLR, etc., etc. We'll discuss it when I take up RBI. Don't worry. Sir, can greedflation be termed as a negative impact of capitalistic economy? Please explain. Answer writing. Okay, you can use that. Right, greedflation is because of higher profit motive of capitalism or capitalistic the participants, that is private sector. Okay. Base effect is used as a reference here. Arey baba, how many times will I have to answer this? Base effect is a different, base year is different. Despite writing 2 points, base effect is different, base year is different. Why are you mixing both of them? And moreover, did I discuss base year with you? No, but even then, nicer. We will mix. We'll mix both of them and we'll keep on asking you. I don't understand your point. Can I fully rely on classes? I've never said that. Do not rely completely on classes. Keep on updating current affairs. You will have to read current affairs. Right? Don't miss out on that and don't blame me. Can governments in capitalist economy declare something as essential commodity? Can they control its prices? Right? They can do it. They can do it, but generally they don't do it because in capitalism, government has a very, very minimal, negligible role. Okay. Any other question? Base effect. I'll repeat it again. Whenever you talk about July inflation, July 2023, you will compare that with July 2022. Now, don't insert base year here. If you insert it, that's your problem, not my mistake, because I've not explained base year. So, again, I'll repeat it. July 2023, you will compare with July 22. In July 2022, if there is a huge difference in the prices, right, for any reason, if the market prices of the basket will fall down or will go up, you are comparing July prices of 23 with July 22. So automatically, because this is very large or very less, what is the inflation rate here will be affected. Okay. RBI can control demand side. How can government of India control supply side? Right? How difficult is that? Are you not reading current affairs? Why do you think RBI has a banned? I'm sorry, government of India has banned export of rice. Tell me, is it not supply side? Right, Arey Baba. Right? You should read newspapers more. What if it is 1%, 8%, 9% for 3 consecutive years? Not consecutive years, consecutive quarters. Consecutive quarters. Consecutive quarters matter, not consecutive years. Okay, done then. So, reasons in CPI, WPI divergence. Is it different base here or different base effect? I've written both of them. My dear, please look at the slide very carefully also. I've written both of them. Both of them are the reasons. Base effect I've explained. Tomorrow I'll explain base year. Okay, so let me stop the discussion today here. Tomorrow we'll pick it up. We'll discuss certain